Hey, each week I don't think it can get much better. After each win, I kind of wonder this must be the top of this mountain. I'm not sure if it's just the past few years or skepticism, but either way, it feels weird, right? Just in a little way. I didn't think we'd be the team that soars to first place and has a comfy lead. That's reserved for the LAs and the Seattles of Major League Soccer. But I guess it's time for Cincinnati fans to shun the demons and put the doubts away because good things are happening to this club. And I guess it is our time, at least for the moment, even when the matches are not pretty. So we're going to talk about some of this good and bad of the past few matches today. Also, FCC is getting really, really close to some silverware, and we want to take a moment to readdress that now that it's this close. So you're listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm Boston Brazel. Joining me tonight are Josh, Jeff, and Justin. So let's roll out the red carpet, get them in here for a Memorial Day special. In prior years, we normally take this week off, but you know what? FC Cincinnati's not taking any time off, so why should we? Let's go ahead and get them covered. We'll be like Lucho Acosta. You can count on them every week. First up, let's welcome in Jeffrey Tebbets. How you doing, bud?
Well, we can play one. Oh, hold on. There we go. We can play 120 every week. We can do that. Absolutely, no problem. I mean, we're on a holiday. We're not supposed to be working on today, but I'll tell you, man, the burgers, the beer, that has never tasted so sweet after a winning streak like this. So, I mean, we know what the day is for. We know who is being honored, but to be able to relax, be in the pool for the first time this year, just take it in and be like, hey, we don't have to really worry about too much right now. It feels pretty good.
Well, you're drinking beers for different reasons, right? I mean, you were drinking beer the whole time. It's just now they're happy.
We were drinking beers to forget, and now we remember everything. It's this weird, third eye opening on our heads here.
All right, let's bring in our other box beat reporter who's having a blast up there. Justin, welcome into the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I echo that with Jeff. I mean, I think the burgers and the beer, that's starting to get to me after a long week and bouncing around the families. But yeah, it's been having a blast, man. Can't wait to see her and talk a little bit of FC Cincinnati.
So maybe if we just do podcasts, watch FC Cincinnati games every day, we won't have to go back to work, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And let's bring Josh in, our guy from the East, not the East Side, the actual East. How you doing, man?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it was a nice, relaxing weekend to hit the beach over here on the East Coast here on a Victory Sunday. It was a beautiful day. Got nice and burnt, so glad everything from the waist down is not on camera because everything else is just red. But yeah, it's great to be back, and like Lucho Acosta, was back to work today. So it was we were doing some choring, doing some things around the house. So we're back on the grind, much like FC Cincinnati, hitting the ground running.
Yeah, this club's turned into quite the fun team to watch because I guess maybe it's, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this, guys. If you have the points to spare, is watching the game less nervous? Are you less nervous watching the game?
No. No, I'm on the edge of my seat, man. I'm a little bit greedy, I guess, in that way. Like, I'd love to see win after win. Each of these teams, I have like a little vendetta over the years against. So it makes me so nervous because it's like the story of FC Cincinnati in the past where we give up these leads late, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like I don't think I could ever get over it. So no relaxing over here in the Blair household.
No?
I think it's gotten a little bit easier for me. I mean, in the past, whenever we gave up a lead or nothing really happened until the 80th minute, I would be clutching the armchair. I'd be enough pressure in my backside to create a diamond out of coal. But for something like this now, if we take a lead, instead of me clutching the seat, it's more that meme with the guy leaning over and starting to play the video game a little bit harder. Sort of like the focus is now more on, okay, we've got this. We can keep going with this. We know what our back line, we know what our goalkeeper is able to do. So it brings more confidence when we get that first goal.
Yeah, I fall in kind of in between the two of you. I find myself, I feel confident from the jump, knowing that, hey, this team is going to come out and be competitive. Long gone are the days where we come in knowing like, well, if we're down and only down 2 goals by halftime, it's great. We still might be able to squeak out a point. No, now it's like, okay, we expect to come out on the front foot and dominate and put a goal in, at least one in an early jump, and be competitive in this game the entire time. But like Justin, there's still a pain in the back of my head that just kind of creeps in around the 80th, 90th minute when we're up a goal, and I'm like, oh no, I remember this feeling. So hopefully that goes away fully by the end. But right now we're taking it minute by minute over here.
I'll say it doesn't feel as much about like in the past. It used to be the Reds holding a lead. You're like, oh, they're going to give up a 3-run home run in this next pitch. Now it's more like the Bengals holding a lead. You're like, we've got this. We've got the defense. We know how to maintain leads now.
The biggest change for me is actually not FC Cincinnati related, if that makes any sense. It's that I'm watching other teams around us in the table a whole lot more than I ever have. Like last night, I was so invested in that Columbus-Nashville game, all 90 minutes, like edge of my seat, just like I would be for an FC Cincinnati game, because I want to know what's going to happen on the table. Like New England, all of a sudden, I'm watching the Revs. Couldn't tell you the last time I watched a Revs game for fun.
I was all over that Revs Chicago game. It felt a lot like the game that we played against Chicago, where Chicago took this lead and then just couldn't hold it. It feels weird seeing all the blocks falling into place.
Yeah, I kind of like it because it's what I do in other leagues, like National Football League, right? You watch a lot of National Football League, usually NFL when it's time for that season, not just Bengal games. So I feel like I'm actually getting to that point with Major League Soccer, and that makes it more fun. That's always been MLS's biggest complaint. How do you get people to pay attention to markets outside of just the one? And it's getting there for me. So it's cool.
I've found myself flipping on MLS 360.
Yeah.
Before and after games, like just kind of like, all right, what did I miss? What happened around the league today while I was watching this game or whatever? So, turns out being top of the table keeps you invested a little bit more.
Even during the games, I mean, it was fun with us having a 9:30 game. You're able to watch all the 7:30 games and be like, yep, there goes NYCFC. Yep. Okay, there goes Miami. Oh, there's another one. So all the teams that you really are invested in seeing them lose, they end up losing. Part of me does, though, look at Philadelphia and I'm like, oh, please don't get hot.
Yeah, Sunday games too. If they can space them out just a little bit, I think that'll be cool. Once the other tournaments kind of fall to the wayside, we'll see what they do. We put it off long enough. Let's jump into your best and worst. Before that, Apollo Home. We want to give them a shout out. They are still the premium home service provider in Cincinnati. They pride themselves on awesome customer service, expert technicians, and 7-day-a-week service. Next time you need help with plumbing, electrical work, or HVAC service, give them a call. You can always schedule a service online at apollohome.com or check out cincinnati-soccertalk.com and click the banner at the top, and it'll take you straight there. Josh, let's get into the best and worst. We'll throw it over to you.
You got it. My best, a little bit of a Captain Obvious moment with this one, but winning games will matter. Right. Stacking on these wins. Obviously, you get the points, you climb the table, all that fun stuff. But as we saw last year, MLS, as a reminder to everyone, MLS's first tiebreaker in the standings is wins, total wins, not goal differential. So, when you look back, I looked back at a couple of years, these past couple of seasons. It's right around the 20 mark. It's right around where the top, win totals were for the year, and not surprising. Those teams were 1, 2, sometimes rarely third in the table. But you can stack these wins early. You're gonna help yourself out at the end of the season when it comes to these tiebreakers, because we all know that at some point, eventually, we're gonna drop some stuff. Assumingly, you're going to eventually drop some points and things are going to get a little bit muddier when we get towards the end of the season. But being able to stack on these 1-goal wins, these ugly, dirty, gross, smash, get in, get out wins, it's gonna pay huge dividends late in the season. And that could be the difference between, hopefully it's the difference of a supporter shield. Worst case, it's the difference in hosting a playoff game. So you just never really know. So bank as many of these as you possibly can before things get a little hairy.
Somebody was chatting earlier today, I noticed in our Cincinnati Soccer Talk group, about what it took to reach the playoff line last year. Was that one of you guys?
I think it was me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year there weren't 9 teams making it. But if you were to draw that line at the 9th team, it was 42 points. We're already at how many? 33?
Wow.
We only need 3 more wins, and we should be qualified for the postseason. Now, we're not going to be happy enough for that, but that's another story altogether.
But that just adds to your point. Like, what if the wheels really fell off? We'd still be okay.
Yeah. Build yourself a cushion, because you never know when you're going to need those extra points. So my worst is, the injury bug is starting to crop up a little bit, and not in a way that's, somebody's picked up a knock here, somebody's picked up a knock there. Like, you conceivably dodged a major bullet with Nick Hagland not missing a huge amount of time, but obviously he didn't travel to Colorado, and he was not in practice again today, according to Laurel Failer's report. And neither obviously was Sergio Santos, who you saw leave, and I know we're going to get into more of that later on, but that looks like another injury that's going to, hopefully it's not as serious, but it might keep him out a long time. He's grabbing his hamstring, so those soft tissue injuries, especially for a guy like that who's got that history, is very sad to see, and very bad timing if there ever is good timing for an injury like that. So it's starting to crop up, and obviously you would expect some of this stuff to kind of wear on these tired legs, but hopefully we can keep that rotation thing going a little bit more, where some guys are getting some shorter breaks, even if it's by suspension, it seems like, as we're going to again talk about later. But if we can get some guys off their legs for a little while and keep them fresh down the stretch, I think we need that more than ever now.
All right, let's throw it to Justin. Best and worst.
Yeah, best, I'm going with the Cincinnati goalkeeping over the last 2 matches.
Right.
Alec Khan and Roman Celentano playing their butts off, really stepping up in a big way, and that's a big shout out to Paul Rogers, one of the most underrated members of FC Cincinnati. What a heck of a goalkeeping coach. And then worst, I'm going to go with no Brenner send off. As we heard in the report, Brenner is going, I think this was Laurel's report, that Brenner is going back to Brazil for recovery before the conditioning starts for their EPL season with not EPL, Serie A. I'm sorry, getting 2 names mixed up right now. But yeah, it sucks, because it would be nice to send him off. I mean, the kid worked his tail off. I know he may not be everybody's favorite player at FC Cincinnati, but we definitely owe it to him for some of our turnaround on this program.
Yeah, I have that as a talking point later, because I think it does. It kind of sucks, right, in a way. So we'll revisit that for you, Justin. And all right, Jeff, best and worst.
I'll have to go with the worst first then. It's this bad feeling that all of these 1-goal wins are going to catch up with us in the end. Yeah, great, 1-goal win against Columbus, great 1-goal win against Colorado. But then you take a look at the New York Red Bull game, even though it was the U.S. Open Cup, that one game where they gave up that really late goal, where they just needed to hold on a little bit longer. And if they did, they wouldn't have another 30 minutes and penalty kicks to slog through. So it feels like it's on the precipice. There's going to be at some point a dam breaking. And I'm hoping that our defense is solid enough to stand up to all those, barrages on the goalkeeper. That being said, in terms of the best, my best is Ian Harris. Ian Murphy. I'm sorry. His name is Ian Murphy. Adrian, I'm sorry. His name is Ian Murphy. He's playing really well. And it's not just the Montreal game when he stepped up and accidentally got himself into an assist on a play. It's him stepping up when the time calls for it, that he has found his legs. He's an experienced 23, which really makes me feel good if somebody like Mascara or in this case Hags needs a day off, needs to sit. And he's playing really well. It's not going to equate to one duel, something that Hagelin is really good at, or being able to predict where the next pass is like Miazga can. But he's not making the vital mistakes that cost us the past few years. So it feels good having a fourth center back that can step up when needed. And he's showing that he's growing in leaps and bounds. It's one of the, as fair to say that Salentano's draft pick was a genius move. Ian Murphy is starting to look as one of the better draft picks, if I dare say, that FC Cincinnati has made.
Who would have thought the MLS Super Draft is starting to produce dividends after all these years? That's so Salentano was the number 1 pick, right?
Number 2 pick.
Number 2 pick overall.
But just wait. I mean, we're following Philadelphia's pattern. So next year we're going to trade all of our draft picks to some sucker teams. San Diego's going to come in. They're going to be like, we'd like to take all 10 draft picks from FC Cincinnati.
We're starting to prove that draft picks are worth something. I mean, even Amaya was $1 million. So if you can get $1 million out of a draft pick, or you can get a starting center back or a starting goalkeeper, it's worth it.
Heck, you got something under Calvin Harris, even though he wasn't doing too well. You got a good trade out of him, and at least made back some of your lost revenue.
That's a good throwback into my best and worst, because my best is Baji over Harris. Right before the match, Burgundy Wave, our counterparts for the Colorado Rapids, threw a Twitter challenge down at us and said, who's going to have the better game here? Baji they call it Baji versus Harris Bowl, because they're both. Baji's the former Colorado player and Harris is the former Cincinnati player. Like, who's going to get the better of each other on this deal? Well, man, it sure was us. As Baji picked that moment to have his first goal of the season. He actually has quite a few in a Major League Soccer. He's had a number for Colorado, so it's kind of good to see. He can score, and it's good to see him get on that scoreboard for FC Cincinnati, finally finding his footing. I think Vasquez was a little dismayed he didn't pass it over to him, but a goal's a goal. And
he was offside on that one. That was a tough one.
Yeah. Wow. So I think overall, I'm just really happy to see him get in it. Going back to your point earlier, we need a striker to find their form. That's been kind of our only missing piece this year as we've been knocking in results. You've had a lot. Acosta stepped it up, a lot of help there. You've had defenders step it up. You've had midfielders scoring goals. And now to see a player like Baji get mixed in, that's great. Yes, Kevin asking on Facebook. Yes, it is his first for FCC total this year or last year, I think. And then, but not his first in Major League Soccer. He said he's had a lot. And so worst, man, it's hard to come up with one. I think I have to pile on with all of you that are preaching congestion. We started the whole congestion thing 2 weeks ago. Maybe some would say too early, because FC Cincinnati was like, we ain't worried about it, guys. I still think the average fan is a little worried with what's coming up here. And we're all playing mental strategy of like what to do versus New York, what to do versus Chicago. We obviously should go for the Open Cup now, but it's still Pittsburgh. So can you go easy? I don't know. It's a lot of the stuff we're going to tackle here in the next few sections. So segment 2, in honor of Acosta, I titled Rest Be Damned, because Lucho Acosta probably had one of my favorite quotes of the year when he asked him about congestion. And he said, 2 weeks. This is how we play it back in Argentina. This is what I love. And he is not wanting to stop playing the ball. I think Noonan's eventually going to have to force him to. But FC Cincinnati did attempt some minor rotation in the last Open Cup game. We're going to talk about 2 big games this week, right? Red Bulls and Colorado. Well, in that Red Bull game, we saw a little bit of rotation, just enough, I guess, Justin, because they still won the game.
Yeah. That was absolute Picasso lineup that we threw out there against New York Red Bulls. Whenever I looked up and I saw Acosta and Yaya Kubo at the 2 striker positions, I was like, this is gonna be fun. But yeah, it was. It's a bit of the same. We have to manage our minutes. They're starting to add up, and like you said, Lucho, he's a gamer, man. He's such a baller, and he's a guy that you want on your side because it's fantastic to see him go out and say, I love playing these games and stuff like that. And it inspires the rest of the team. It's what your captain is supposed to do. I mean, you have that armband for a reason. Like he sets the tone for the rest of the team. And I think there was times early in Lucho's career where he may have not necessarily been that vocal, but now you can see him with a different energy out on the training pitch, and then also out, obviously behind microphones, letting people know he's ready for it, man. Bring him on.
Yeah, you talked about that Frankenstein lineup. Kubo, Acosta on top, Pinto, Obi, and Gulo in the midfield. Arias, Murphy, Mosquera, Hagelin, Powell in the back line. That's probably the most solid there. It's not normal, but it's probably the most solid. And then, of course, Can in goal for Celentano. Any thoughts, Jeff, on the weirdness?
I don't think there was any weirdness at all in that. I think, you put this team together so you can test your depth. You put this team together so you're not, putting out the same starting 11 each time. You're going out there and you're realizing, okay, Angulo can do this much and Pinto can do this much. And Kubo, he's got experience in the not necessarily the lead striker, but the secondary striker position.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of different pieces that he's learning how to use. And then you look at the bench, Miazga on the bench, Moreno on the bench, Baji on the bench. These all guys that normally could be starters anywhere, let alone FCC. And having a team that's now 18 deep and not 12 or 13 deep gives me a lot of, I think, it makes me feel good about our chances surviving all of this weird rotation. When the injuries start piling up, then I'm going to start getting worried. Santos being out, Hags being out. Who knows what's going to happen to the likes of Arias, who's shown he can't be 100% every week. If something was to snap and somebody has to go down, then I start getting worried. But right now, I see that we have just enough cohesiveness, just enough understanding of each other that being 18 deep will get us deep into these types of tournaments without having to worry too much about giving it up for the regular season.
But you had to get a little bit worried, huh? Because New York.
I was a little worried because it was New York. They brought out Van Zier, who was I think got a lot to prove, and proved it in the 92nd minute, but then failed to prove it in penalty kicks. But it also shows, it's not just the starting 11 that we know we can go 7 deep and that we have more than one really good goalkeeper. That first save by Can, that was from him spreading out. And that's not to also dismiss that he had 30 something shots fired from New York. And
yes,
I don't know how many were on frame, but he saved all of those except for one. And it was more of a deflection than anything.
Well, that's the one thing I would want to touch on with the New York game, because I think it's the first time we've seen, I don't know if I should call it weakness, Josh, but FC Cincinnati got peppered and they could not get the ball out of their own half at the end of that game, and it ended up costing them with extra time, extra 15 minutes here, and they're at extra 30 minutes plus penalty kicks because New York finally hit.
Yeah, I think it looked finally like the first time that you saw the congestion show up on the legs a little bit. I mean, by the end of that game, you could tell everyone was just exhausted. And you can't necessarily blame them. I mean, it's a lot of minutes on a lot of legs and a lot of short period of time. And, credit to the defense for holding on as long as they possibly could. And, you could debate about, the goal given up, whether Khan could have done something a little bit better with it in terms of getting his positioning right. But, they withstood a barrage for as long as we have seen all season. And I think that was also a credit to a good sign of things where you have tired legs that got bombarded by a quality team. Red Bull's still a good team. So like Jeff said, there was some talent on that field, and they still held their own for 90 plus, and then 91 minutes, and then squandered it. So it gives you find those moments of like when you're down, but you find out like, okay, this team has depth, this team has quality in depth, and this team can like we've seen before, just find a way to get results. And obviously you would have rather have seen it in 90 minutes and not even go to penalties at all. But I give him a little bit of credit. I wonder if you had Kimi Ordonez available, or would we not have seen Acosta at all? And does that change the game? Whatever. But Pat Noonan still clearly believes in his guys, and if I think Lucho Acosta is the one guy on the team that's going to say, like, I'm playing the entire time. Don't take me off the pitch. I don't know how he doesn't listen to him, but I'm starting to get that point of like, maybe we should, try to talk Lucho down a little bit, just to say like, hey man, no, we'll give you 70 minutes this time instead of a full 90, but just in case. But yeah, they looked tired, and I give them a pass for that. And I was, if you follow me on Twitter, I was saying I would have at some point I would have rather lost in regulation than go another 120. Now I'm super happy that they got the win. Don't get me wrong.
Everybody's like, what?
No, it's like I'm super pumped they got the win, but like
that's a take. You look like a genius if they would have lost.
If they like in the moment, like I was just like, this okay, we're good. Like it's the Open Cup. Like, will I be happy if they win? Yes, but if they lose in penalties, what was it all for? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I went back and forth. I was super happy they win, but put Lucho in an ice bath immediately. Yep. Like, cart him off the field in a bath. Like, this is where I was at by the end of that game.
At the same time, though, you had to think in the back of your mind, not 2017 again. If we're going to extra time, I do not want to see a goal in the 101 first minute. I wanted this. I wanted once we got into the first whistle of added extra time, I wanted this more than anything.
I was worried. I thought that's the worst we've looked for a whole team of midfielders. We sure could not play in the midfield. And I agree with you, Josh. Tired legs, but also something about Vasquez not being out there, maybe not having a Brenner. They just did not respect our attacking game. They just said, you know what? Go for it, because we don't think you have it. And they were right. We were not going to score the winning goal. We were going to go to penalties.
Well, I mean, we compounded the problem. I mean, we don't have that long range deep threat. Like Brenner is a huge miss right now for our regular competition minutes, but having Vasquez out there that can kind of really stretch that back line, keep them honest instead of playing so high up. And we know the Red Bulls love playing a high line regardless, but if you pick and prod at them by sending the ball down long against them, that kind of eases off that line. And we just didn't have it because we don't have, with Acosta and Kubo, God love their hearts, they're not the fastest inline runners in the world. So without Baji, without Santos, and without Vasquez, they were more than happy to let us play up the field.
Yeah, that might have been a good one for Santos for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Since we talked about the depth, let's just dive into it a little bit. These 2 weeks are not slowing down. Open Cup, I think, is compiled and made sure we have 2 weeks. Is it going to catch up to FC Cincinnati, or are they deep enough to keep chugging? We've seen some new signings. We've seen Joey Hekapuno had his first game versus last week, just for a few minutes. But still, we're seeing some stuff that we haven't seen yet, and I just want to know if are we deep enough to keep the results coming
against the competition? Yes, I think New York City FC doesn't sound alarms for us. And
I think we're deep enough that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go ahead, Jeff.
I think we're deep enough that New York City is in a rut. They are not looking good at home or away. I think maybe a lot of that started from us, managing to finally beat them at home. And beyond that, Chicago hasn't been looking good. They've been giving up a lot of goals when they shouldn't be giving up goals, and they're in the middle of a new manager bump. So I'm feeling confident in these next two. it's when the next two after that I'm like, please don't let us, lose to Pittsburgh, whatever we do. Please, I can see us lasting as long as Vancouver. I mean, you're on the West Coast. You're playing a team that is rightfully very talented at home. But if they can get by these next two games without any issues, then I think we are in a good spot. I think we would have dominated. I hate using that word. We would have survived the rotation.
For me, I think we've reached a point of this congestion where it's, draws are going to be okay. Like, I'm going to live with a point. Like, yes, you should be beating these teams this late. Again, teams at the bottom of the table, you're obviously number one. You should be beating these teams. But, like, I wasn't going to hate a draw against Colorado. Like, I'm not going to hate a draw against NYCFC. Like, these are road games that are weird environments that, with all this congestion, like, if you can find a way to get a point in these games, I think that's a job well done. Now, the fact that you can go into Colorado and just out-talent them for a little bit of time and then bring home 3 points, even better. And if you can do that again on Wednesday, even better. But I think you're also, with the cup being so close now, and you've heard Pat Noonan and those guys talk about, like, the goal is to win trophies. I think you're going to see a priority in that. And so, they've clearly made a priority of winning at home and winning in the cup. So that, to me, that says NYCFC might be a game where you see some different bodies in there. If you can get them in, maybe Chicago, you flip it again. Obviously, you're at home. You're hoping the home crowd, kind of energizes you through that one before you see a full squad against Pittsburgh. I don't think they want to mess around with Pittsburgh. At least I don't hope they want to mess around with Pittsburgh.
I have made fun of way too many Crew fans for us to lose against the Crew.
Like, yeah. So
I don't want to
That's
eat
the
all
funny thing about tournament. That
it all can happen. So I'm just hoping I'm hoping you reach that point where you're like, all right, let's get some bodies rotated as much as you possibly can for these next two league games, because as we talked about, you've built yourself some distance from the rest of the field a little bit. That, let's go into Pittsburgh at home with an A squad, hang 3 of them up in the first half, and then hang on. Like, that's...
Yeah, this would be a different story if we were playing Philadelphia or Atlanta, in my opinion. I think because of our opponents, I think we're allowed to, not necessarily drop points, but we're allowed to have not our best performance, best lineup against these matches.
And still get points. Like, I think you can feel confident that you can have another game like Colorado and still probably get a point out of Chicago and New York. Like, at least that's how you should feel.
I know sports betting's all the rage now. I personally haven't done too much of it, but I wish there was more single-ized odds. Like, what's the first game Acosta actually sits in? Like, because if you look at New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh, I don't know. I don't know if he'll ever sit.
He might not need to
go the distance. No, when do we have Charlotte? Let's flip that up.
My God, that takes some gumption to single out a team and say,
I'll go on their podcast. I'll tell them.
July 8th.
There you go, July 8th. That's my money.
Well, I mean, there is good news. If FC Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh, then the Open Cup starts to spread itself out. The last few rounds of the Open Cup are not. They used to be back in the day. All of us remember when we played in the Open Cup. It went bam, 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 bam. Open Cup was like midsummer, and then you called it a day. Now it's gotten, with Leagues Cup and everything else, it's gotten really spread. I don't even think the Open Cup finishes till like late fall.
September 27th is the final.
Yep.
If we were to advance past Pittsburgh, we would not play again until August 23rd.
We're gonna forget about it by the time it's time to play.
yeah. It's gonna come back around, and
it came into play. If you remember last year, it came into play because we were all wondering what Orlando would look like after coming out of a match against Sacramento. It's like, are they? Because they were right there with us in the pack at the back on the bottom of the East. trying to get a spot into the playoffs. And yeah, it's bizarre that they have such a long pause. They don't really do that in any other major tournament. So,
What I think is really weird about this year, and I will throw this to you, Jeff, as well as whatever you have to go. The Open Cup is a lot of teams that are at the bottom of the table. I mean, all of them are in the 20s or below for Major League Soccer standings. And then you have Pittsburgh, and then you have Birmingham. And our side of the bracket is even better looking. It's Miami, Birmingham, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. I see you shaking your finger. But all I'm saying is that means you have to go for it, right? I mean, you have to.
You have to go for it because you've seen what Pittsburgh has done to the last two teams. That they walked into New England and they didn't look scared at all of that team. Even when Carles Gil came in, their MVP from a few years ago, they weren't scared at that. They hosted Columbus, and as much as Columbus was like they let Zelarayan, they let Cucho, they left them in Ohio, and they looked like a shell of themselves. So I'm not going to look at Pittsburgh and say, hey, this should be a cupcake game. I'm going to look at this like we've seen what happens when we rest some of our better players, our best players. I'm sorry, when Columbus rested some of their best players, they left themselves wide open. I do not want to, look at this and say that Pittsburgh is an easy game. Also, last year, Pittsburgh took us to extra time in the U.S. Open Cup at home. We had to depend on Barreal scoring in extra time twice just to get by them into the next round. So I am not looking past Pittsburgh at all.
So have Barreal on the field, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. I'm saying you need to have more of your better players. And it's going to be, if you do get past Pittsburgh and you're looking at the semifinals, that's going to be a difficult game too, because the game before should be the second Hell is Real game in Columbus. The game this is a congested schedule that we're looking at in the future, because this will also be after Leagues Cup takes place. Let's say we go deep in Leagues Cup. We're going to be exhausted going into the semis if we get that far.
Well, true or false? If the semifinals of the Open Cup is your next game, or the game before, and Hell is Real away is next, do you care about Hell is Real?
Hell is Real is before.
Hell is Real come before.
Yeah. Same thing.
Either way.
Yeah.
Like
you want to win Hell is Real. You want to wipe the smiles off of.
I could care less.
No.
Semifinal of the Open Cup it just took priority. It's gonna say it's versus Miami. Say both USL teams get knocked off. If it's FC Cincinnati versus Miami, that is a way bigger deal. You are a game and a half away from 2 games away from a trophy. Silverware. We've already mentioned in this pod. It's all about silverware.
And
so
Champions League.
Yeah. What I would
Champions League.
What I would argue against that, in a sense, is that you're coming off of Leagues Cup. That's July. I guess if you make a deep run, you're probably a little bit closer. But even then, that Columbus game is August 20th. So conceivably, you would still have at least a 2-week break, right? I don't know what the leagues. I'd have to look at the Leagues Cup schedule. I don't have it pulled up to see exactly when that.
Here's a new question for you. But before you do that, if we're in the running for the Sports Shield and we're in the running with a good solid chance at the U.S. Open Cup trophy, do we give a flying crap about Leagues Cup? I mean, you have 2 trophies on the line. Why are you bothering yourself with a third?
It's an automatic qualifier, and it happens every year. No.
Yeah, I'm torn on that. I mean, we're lucky that for the Leagues Cup, our first 2 games are going to be at home against Sporting Kansas City, who's not great, and Chivas
third on the table.
Yeah, but we beat them last year. Granted, it wasn't as much as it could be.
Yeah,
but there's a possible, and not to mention, if you go far in Leagues Cup, there's a good chance that they're going to postpone Hell is Real, because the final would be on August 19th. Hell is Real would be on August 20th. So maybe we do a big run in the Leagues Cup just so that we can spread our challenges out a little bit.
You trying to go home with 3 trophies?
You know what? If we get 3, my eyes are bigger than my head right now, but if we get 3 trophies, 2 years after being the worst. Well, yeah, 2 years after being the worst team in the league, you've got to, put this in like history books.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget the League's Cup has all these teams from Mexico involved too. I don't think it's a run in the park.
No.
I'd be cool with punting on that one. And Boston, I'm with you. Punt on hell is real. We don't care. It'd make them even more mad.
It kind of is a screw you if we put FCC 2 out.
Sorry, we got bigger things to do.
Real, and we're like, guys, we're playing this Open Cup game.
I don't want to drive up to Columbus and watch us punt away. This would be my first time going. I don't want to do that. No.
I mean, I'll be there with you. I'm going regardless, but I'm gonna watch Queemy kick in a goal.
Watch Ben Stitz get his first domestic League One goal.
We believe.
Watch some FCC 2. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, we could win three trophies. We'll still be below LAFC in the power rankings.
Just think, we'll have all 3 of these trophies, and we'll still be number 2 in the power rankings.
Yeah, LA's number 1 in ESPN's today. So
shout out Patty Ann on Facebook. Yep, probably not.
Oh yeah. Good job. Somebody had a comment earlier. I want to get back to it. I blew right by me. Jay Yates. I'm not sold on Angulo, but Pinto has seemed the right fit in when he plays. Wanted to call that out because we touched on this a few weeks ago. Pinto had a couple good performances, and we were like, "Wow, that's exactly what you want out of a rookie." But then he's had a couple more good performances, and I mean, he's become Mr. Dependable. And we talk about a team that's going to need depth. It could come down to Pinto getting some serious playing time. And does that make you nervous at all?
No, not at all. I think him in that 8 position was lovely to watch. I think Pinto doesn't make the mistakes. Pinto he finds himself in position, and he's got that young aspiration. You know what I mean? He is running to the ball on every play, but he's never finding himself out of position, and that's what's impressive. And it's what, like, whenever they're coming down that right channel, that's what locks your eyes in. He does make mistakes. He does have communication errors with Nuobono and his back line partner Miazga, but yeah, Pinto is lovely. I would love to see him play more minutes at the 8.
Let's flip it the other way and throw it to you, Jeff. Angulo is the starter versus Pittsburgh. Are you worried?
Not too worried. No.
No?
I think, well, I mean, he was the starter for New York Red Bull in the U.S. Open Cup game as well. And he played a decent game. He actually got credited for the assist on Kubo's goal. I really think that he's got some growing to do. He probably is a little down on himself a little bit that Pinto is going in ahead of him. I wouldn't be surprised if that's affecting him, his play a little bit, but he's being trusted with a bulk of minutes at a time. I mean, he's still young. He's still 20. Pinto's 20 as well. It's incredible that we've got these 2 youngsters on our bench, and they're going out there and they're not making these humongous mistakes like some of the players did last year or the year before. So he's going to take some time to grow, and he's got to be patient about it. I think Brenner had the same situation. He needed time to grow, and he became a better player, arguably, for it. So Angulo needs some time. He needs some confidence, and I think playing these games is going to give it to him.
Yeah, he seems a little frustrated with his lack of minutes, I think, due to the money FC Cincinnati is spending on him. You would have thought if money translated into playing time, he would be playing more. So I guess it's not exactly how it goes. And we have a coach that doesn't just play you by your dollars. Kenneth Vermeer. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think that is 2 big pieces of this team going forward. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that. I guess we've already touched on Leagues Cup. We're going to skip that in the thing. What are you focusing on? We've beat around the bush. New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh. I'll just personally put out my opinion first, and then I'll see if any of you guys want to fight me. I don't care about New York City. You already have OB suspended. I would go ahead and rest some more guys. along with Obi being out, and then just see if he can get a draw. I would actually play for the draw, not the win in New York.
Last year we got the accidental draw at New York City, being down 1-0. Then all of a sudden, was it Chanot that or Thiago? I can't remember who passed it back, but all of a sudden Sean Johnson fell asleep at the wheel, and boom, the ball goes in. We escape with a 1-1 draw. I would pay big money for that. But I also feel that New York City gives up goals on the regular. I don't think they've had a clean sheet in 12 games. So this is something where even if you rest people, I think you still get a result out of it. And it's not going to be one of those, oops, own goal. Here's a bonus point for you guys. I think that they have what it takes to go in. New York City is wounded, so they're going to fight as hard as they can on the smallest pitch in the world. But I think this team, we've got some knowledge there. That being said, I don't want to see our players playing on a baseball field and having them go down to an injury. That's the last thing I want to see. If we're going to rest anybody, rest Acosta for about 60 minutes.
Yeah, Jeff stole my exact thought. Are they playing at City or are they playing at?
I think it's Yankee Stadium.
It's at Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I apologize to any fans that travel because I'm trying to bench the team. Sorry, John. I'm trying to bench the whole team for your visit.
Yeah, selfishly, I would like to see some guys out there just so I can get my dollar value out of it. No, it'll be fun with the Auxillo folks out there in New York, and we'll be trying to be as loud as we possibly can. And yeah, I mean, I actually kind of agree. I think this, of all of the games that you look down the list, it's an away game on a weird field, and you're playing at a baseball like, like we talked about before. The talent on this team is deep enough that you could probably grunt out a win or draw and not play quality. So if you want to throw some quality guys on the field and you can sneak out a win, even better. But I think between Chicago being at home and then Leagues Cup or then U.S. Open Cup, I think U.S. Open Cup has to start being the priority. Home games being your second, and then your third priority being like, all right, let's try to sneak out some results on the road.
Yeah. All right, let's throw it to beyond our amazing sponsors, Cincinnati Local. By the way, they give you 20% off if you just go in and say, hey, you listen to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, which is a cool deal for you and for us. We'll throw it to them, and then we are going to dive into the FC Cincinnati news of the week because we got a few things that have happened while all these games were going on.
Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a locally owned physical therapy and fitness facility that helps people prevent and rehab from injuries, improve fitness and athleticism, and recover from strains of daily life. In fact, they've worked with a couple of your FCC starting 11 over the past 3 off seasons. Check out their website to see who these players are and to see the range of services they provide to keep you pain-free and moving well at GoBeyondExercise.com.
All right, let's get into a little bit of news. Justin, you touched on it at the top of the show. Brenner and FC Cincinnati have officially parted ways, like I guess unofficially, because they did it officially. Now it's unofficially parting ways early. Technically, he didn't need to leave until the international window opened back up. He wasn't supposed to. FC Cincinnati, of course, wanted their player as long as possible on the pitch playing for them. Brenner, apparently, we're hearing from reports this week, wanted Chicago, the next home game, I guess, to be his last game, and he wanted to do the big send-off and stadium announcing and all that there. Makes sense. And then, of course, the team that bought him wanted none of any of this stuff. They just wanted him to sit and watch at Mercy Health Training Facility. So,
Jersey sales in Cincinnati just went down for them.
Right, three-way fight going on. You got a player's interest, a club's interest, and another team's interest. Who's right? Who's wrong, Jeff? If you have to put pen to paper,
I think it's at this point it's all a moot point. I mean, he's injured. You're not going to put him out there, and frankly, I think it would have been nice to have him on the pitch and wave to the fans. But what else is he going to do? It's something I think he can do remote. He can, record something to be put on the scoreboard. And most importantly for me, he was in the locker room at the end of the Hull is Real. He was celebrating with his team. He didn't have to be there, but he was happy and he was content to be with this team. I think a lot of people in the end are going to say, well, Brenner, he didn't really want to be with us. He had bigger aspirations. We all have bigger aspirations, whether it be Europe or South America or World Cup. So it would have been nice, but I'm not going to feel worse for where I'm going to be happy where he's going. And I hope he remembers his time fondly.
I noticed the fans in the chat seem to be just like, yeah, let's move on. Would if he got his ceremony versus Chicago, standing ovation and all that, do you think the fans overall would treat him pretty good? Would be happy?
Yeah, I think most people would give him a good clap
off. We're not looking at Frankie Maya.
No, absolutely not. No, I think this has been in the works for a while. So I think people, even if you didn't like the way Brenner always carried himself, I think you'd still give him a good clap off. I mean, the guy absolutely was a killer last year. I mean, we cannot underplay how much Brenner meant to this team in getting into playoffs and really turning the trajectory of this team around. I mean, he's obviously not played a significant part of this season. And we're more successful this season, but Brenner, you can't fault Brenner for the pay he got. You can fault him for maybe the attitude and the antics, but it still would have been lovely for the majority of fans to be able to give him a clap off, appreciate, come back anytime. We have a sword and a rock you can lift. One of those things. But I mean, it is what it is, and hopefully that Brenner knows that for the most part his time here was positive. So
yeah, I'll clap the video. They're
Yep.
gonna show a video. I'll clap the video. All right. Well, we'll move past this. This is why we have a live show, because chat's like, no, Brenner, stop talking about Brenner. Let's talk about our new signing. So let's talk about a new signing. We have FC Cincinnati has signed. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I'm going to botch this, I'm sure. Gerardo Dado Valencia as a homegrown player. Immediately got backup. Was in the lineup versus in this last game versus Colorado. So he was on the bench, didn't get to enter the game, but FC Cincinnati already looking as him. Maybe as who's he going to replace here? Acosta? This one's a little confusing for me. I don't know how much FCC 2 you've watched this year, guys, but he's been a decent enough. He's definitely played well enough to get a good solid look. I think he deserves the signing. 6 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Then he got to play last week, right before he played, and then they took him out early just so he could catch the flight to Colorado. So good on him.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I didn't watch a lot. He didn't definitely pop off. He didn't pop out of the rest of the squad for FC Cincinnati too. I've only caught a couple of their games, but yeah, I would imagine he's probably going to be playing more of that 8-10 role. I don't see him as a defensive player. I could be horribly wrong about that, but I think that it's a little bit more of the instincts and the game smartness that he has. And they're going to work to develop him in, because frankly, right now, we're not sure where we're at. And if you remember, we had Kubo playing forward against the Red Bulls, and we had Kubo go down with an injury as well. So that may have been what sprung this kind of move.
Yeah, I think it's smart to have somebody up there as a backup. We need someone who's going to be an attacking, minding player like Acosta. You can't replace Acosta; he's irreplaceable. But finding someone who can play the role is going to be a good thing for FCC, because eventually Acosta is going to wear down, or he's gonna somebody's going to give him a tackle that makes him decide to leave at the 70th minute. There's a number of reasons. So having a backup there, I'm dead on there with you. I think it's a good.
He's
move
the perfect.
overall.
He's the perfect name that I want to see go out, dominate Pittsburgh in the first half, bag 3 goals, bring him on in the 55th, 60th minute. Like, let the kid just run around out there with a lead, have some protection behind him just in case, but let him go nuts out there. Like, just like see what he can do in that kind of stress-free environment, because it's like you don't want to be putting that kid on the field with needing like clutch minutes. Like, so I'm excited for the depth, but hopefully he gets some run in a non-stressful environment.
Coach said he was going to do a write-up on our website, so stay tuned to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. When we sign a new player, he likes to go back, figure out their past, their history, what they've done, where they've played well. It's a really good breakdown. It's probably one of the things I'm most looking forward to, because I want to see Coach's article before I watch him play, because I kind of like to line them up side by side. So stay tuned this week on our website for that article. It's always really well thought out, well put together. And since we're talking about the website, we might as well give a shout out to all the patrons that keep the website running and help us take care of all those pesky bills. We appreciate everyone who does. By the way, that also earns you a spot in the Growler Cup. Round 2 has just started, and there is still time to get in and do well. Because if there's anybody like me, I tried to cheat the Growler Cup this week with a 1-1 draw, and I got like 1 point. So I'm starting the year off terribly with just 1 point, and I'll have to do some catching up. So if you haven't joined the Growler Cup yet, do it. You can catch up with me, and we will try to get back on pace here. Shout out to Red Lee, John Davidson, Mike Hudson, Laurel Failer, Matthew Adamczyk, Riley Stephen Burke, James Denbrough, Tom Newhouse, Brian Weigel, Brian Gills, Dan Alberts, Will Kychek, Ian Rexroad, Carl Fight, Christina Sharma, Kyle Pohl, Rupesh, Tom Beaversdorf, Jason Who was Super Average, John Haskell, Ryan Ernst, Mary Lou, Wes Anastasi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, Thomas Steffs, Pierce Johnson, Mike Parentis, David Wiederhold, Rob Cassell, Brad Weigel, Kevin Day, Paul Hedger, Jamie Smed, Alex Carnegus, Dave Tingler, Patrick Lahani, Mike Bowman, Brett Sova, Kevin Cooney, Joe Max, Jack Emery, Sarah Gorman, David Moore, Bob Ryan, Ryan Durkin, Bart Labita, Rob Triple, Joe Lohr, Bill Leopold, Maureen de Murray, Jose, David Meyer, John Caffardi, Olympico, Joseph of Hangar at 937, Justin Blair, Kyle Phillips, Ashley Newhouse, Dan Burns, Tyler Nolan, Coach Clip, Justin Gregory, Scott Dalton, Jason Ashcraft, Jeffrey Tebbets, Andrew McCormick, and Troll. And actually, we have a brand new patron this week, so I will get to that. I am so sorry. I didn't have that ready, so let's get that rolling up. But while I do that, you can support us at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support, or over on Patreon. Just search for us and find us there. Let's just quickly, might as well jump into the final thoughts. It's already 10 o'clock somehow. So, Josh, we will get to you, and my final thought is going to be introducing our new patron.
Yes. My final thought, bring on silly season. Going into the summer now, we've FC Cincinnati's got some holes to fill. We've got, obviously, we just talked at length about Brenner heading out, so we've got a DP spot that we can fill there, which we can use a U22 spot. There's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of dollars and cents from my understanding and looking at the wonderful work at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com of all the roster management. Check that stuff out there. But yeah, it's rumor season. Things are going to get weird. There's going to be a lot of names thrown out and agents saying this person's going here and this person's in here, and it's all a bunch of nonsense. And it's one of the most fun parts of the year in my book. Love it. So bring on the rumors.
Yeah, I forgot. It is almost that time again. Nice. And then we've already seen FC Cincinnati made an offer last month for a young player, 19 years old. So turned away, but apparently still shooting for him. So if that comes more to fruition, we'll touch on that. I guess I'll just jump real quick into my final thought, which is I'm going to go second and spin this off a little bit.
Is that legal when the Weigels are away?
I could do whatever I want.
Oh, I guess so.
No, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Jackson Fight. You are forever now on the rundown. So congratulations and thank you for your support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Justin.
Yeah, I just would like to give a shout out to chat tonight. Jay, Kevin, and Clifford, you bring it every week. Every week we're in these shows, and really appreciate your support. in your dialogue. I have a good time reading your all's comments. I was laughing about 8 or 9 times in chat. So thanks again. Thanks to everybody who participates in chat.
Dead on. It's awesome, and it also is great to get corrected when you totally botch something.
Not a rare thing around here.
Jeff.
Well, you're talking about silly season starting up. It's going to be even sillier in the next week or so. The TST tournament is starting up on Thursday. Your Natty SC finally, after all of the plugging and the excitement, the training started last week. Even with Chad Ochocinco, this entire $1 million purse is finally going to start taking off. It's going to be here and done before you know it. Just looking at Natty SC's lineup, Chad Johnson, of course. You got Corbin Bone. You've got Jimmy McLaughlin, Kenny Walker. You've got Danny Koenig, who made his presence felt on Instagram. The King is back in Cincinnati. And a whole bunch of other players that have played for Cincinnati or are known to be Cincinnati athletes. They're going to be online as well. If you go to YouTube to the TST tournaments page, they're going to be playing June 1st, 2 of their games already, hashtag United and Gracie FC. And then the next day, they'll be playing against the likes of DeMarcus Beasley's team, Jimmy Conrad's team. So if they can get through that, then they go straight into the knockout tournament. It should all finish up on June 4th, this Sunday. If you are a fan of the Natty, go and support the Natty by watching them on Thursday and Friday. They would appreciate it.
And if we can't, I saw it got picked up by CBS or somebody, right?
God, Peacock. I think
Peacock,
Peacock's got a few of those games, but the ones that are only interested for us are all going to be on YouTube. Okay,
cool. Well, I'm definitely going to be checking it out. I wish I could get down there, and maybe I still will try to figure out a way, but it'll be tight window. I know a lot of fans are. So if you're thinking about it, you will have company. There is a whole caravan of people going down to support our old USL players. A lot of them still hang around town. We see them. I've seen McLaughlin many, many times at the stadium. I think we all have a deep connection to these guys, and so it'd be great, and I hope they do well.
Yeah, if you guys want more information about this, go to the Natty SC on either Twitter or Instagram, and they have all the stuff already retweeted and tweeted out.
Jay's asking about watch parties. Jay, I hope so. Pressure your local supporter group. Let's get some watch parties. It would be kind of fun to see, or if they're not going to do it, maybe we should try to put something together. Maybe we can hit Ryan House up and get a TST watch party. That'd be so cool, wouldn't it? All right. We'll take a quick gander into that this week and see what we can muster up. Other than that, I think we've touched on everything we've got. Thanks for tuning in. Memorial Day week special. FC Cincinnati keeps it coming, so we will too. Let's keep it rolling. I mean, we might rest some guys versus New York, but if there's anything FC Cincinnati's taught us this year, it's so what? Let's win anyway. So let's keep it going. Win FC Cincinnati, Open Cup, 2 more games this week. It's fun to be a fan. We'll see you next week.